I'm Brent Jeffries of Bierer. Been with the company for about 7 years. And what we do is we manufacture voltage indicators and phasing tools and testing equipment for linemen. And about 4 years ago, going around the country, visiting linemen and visiting service centers, we started hearing a lot about incidences. We were getting more in our customers' face, and we started hearing more about incidences that were taking place across the country. Guys losing hands, losing arms, fingers, and of course, not only just injuries such as that, but also death. And this has actually evolved into what we call on the Facebook and LinkedIn pages, lineman safety and tool training. And we're gonna obviously need to change that to line workers. But we started those groups because we wanted to have people gather together and share safety for free for our linemen, share experiences, tips, things like that, IP conferences as well. Just to get the word out. There was not enough being said. So we started doing this, and we do this around the country. Walter Bierer, the owner of the company, about 4 years ago, he said, hey, let's just get out there and start offering this for free. And so we travel coast to coast, border to border, and a little bit in other countries as well, teaching and training linemen. Some things that you guys will hear today that you have not heard before, that are very important things that need to be added into everybody's training program, work methods and such as that. So this is what we do. It's kind of like giving back. It's to prevent linemen and their families losing their father or their mother out in the field. So we don't give to organizations that help lineman's family after an incident. What we do is we give to prevent the incident. That's what we focus on. And what we do is this is an open forum. We're going to be using live source. As you can see, we have 3-phase. We're going to use 13/8 phase to ground, and we have some capacity test points that we're going to be working with and demonstrating the safety and tool training with. And this is an open forum, so we're going to stop once in a while and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. So hopefully you won't have a lot because we'll be pretty thorough here, but definitely ask questions if you guys have them during the presentation. Y'all get that?
Sounds good.
Yep, okay. So Ryan Bierer, he's my nephew. We're a family company, and he's going around the country training with me. And Parker Height, what they do is one will go with me for 1 week, and then the other will go with me for another week, so that hopefully in 2022 that they can do this on their own, and I can back off a little bit and start staying home a little more often. So we're a family company. Parker Height's my sister's stepson.
Yeah.
What are you, Parker? Stepson. And my sister runs the production team. Joe Bierer, my brother, he runs he's vice president of executive vice president of full operations. And so this is just pure family, what we do here, aunts, uncles, and such as that. So, right, ready?
So I guess you guys told them this was just a sneak peek into our tool training?
No, this is all tool training. Yeah,
all right,
all safety.
So we like to train. First thing you want to do using testing equipment is perform a battery check. With any manufacturer's tools, a battery check isn't a tool test. Brent, Parker will go into a true tool test later on. Our tools have a toggle switch on the back. Other manufacturers use a push button. So I'll demonstrate what you can expect from a horn and light. Flip to the test position on the back. Hear the horn, see the light. If you're not hearing the horn, seeing the light, get a good known battery in the device. All of our tools have a live line tool fitting on the front with a 9-volt battery in them. Once you get a 9-volt battery that you know is good, flip to the test position. If you're still not hearing the horn, seeing the light, you want to get it out of service, get the tag, get it sent back to us. Our tools, no matter how old they are, we'll repair them. We have set repair fees, unlike some manufacturers. Uh, so for an analog tool, again, flip to the test position on the back. You want to see the needle deflect and or peg. If you're not seeing any deflection, same as the analog or the audible meter, you get a good known battery in it. You're still not seeing a deflection of the needle. Same thing, get it out of service, get it sent back to us, we'll repair it. And for a digital tool, like I said, our tools have 9-volt batteries in them. Flip to the test position. So I don't know if you guys saw that. The tool is reading 8.1 volts. For our tools in particular, we recommend not using them anything under 7 volts. And you guys will understand why here shortly. Appreciate it. I'll let Parker here step in.
I'm Parker Height, and so regardless of manufacturer, when you have a voltage detector, any sort, the functionality of how these tools work is they make contact with conductors, the meter couples with the capacitance, and the components inside, which are conductive, look at the current in relation to the ground plane. And we also have a line about 2.5 inches down from the tip of the probe, which indicate where you do not pass with an energized conductor or any conductor of any sort, whether it's ground or anything like that. And that's also the reason why you always want to keep the proper accessory and take no shortcuts, and always put this proper accessory, which is it could be a hook probe, straight probe like we have on here, bushing adapter. And the reason behind that is so it actually extends your depth perception out so you don't cross that line. Because as you know, the components inside these meters are conductive. And once you cross that line, you could potentially have a flashover. Also, always keep the probes clean and no calibration stickers, no writing, anything like that. So you prevent it from having any kind of flashover. Another thing is we hear a lot of utilities holding the meter with their gloved hand, just like this, going up to the line. And that is a big no-no, because what the meter does is coupling with capacitance. And when you're holding like this, you're actually coupling with the capacitance. So we actually recommend for you to always keep at least 24 inches back from the meter head with your live line tool. And Brent, take over here. Okay.
All right, you guys good so far? You can hear us well?
Yes, coming through.
Okay, so the safety is, again, as Parker had mentioned, regardless of whose tools that the utility uses, the safety is exactly the same across the board. If it's a wireless tool, then the tool looks at the current in relation to the ground plane through the air. If it's a corded tool, then you have a direct contact with the ground or another phase. So it basically still works the same. It's just you have the air as a means of transportation, or you have a cord as means of your transportation, but the tools all work the same. Okay, it's getting a little windy out here. We got a storm approaching, but I think we're going to be good. So what we're going to do is in 1910.269 in OSHA, if you go down to lowercase n, it talks about temporary personal grounds. And in lowercase n, temporary personal grounds, before the grounds are applied, you are supposed to, the line worker is supposed to check for a lack of nominal voltage on the conductor prior to placing his temporary personal grounds. We train, not only are we going to check to look for a lack of nominal voltage, but we're going to also look for a lack of induction, and we're going to look for a lack of backfeed with our tool prior to placing our TPGs. Does that make sense to everybody? Makes sense?
I'm not seeing any objections in the chat or anything, but I'm seeing yeses, a bunch of yeses coming in, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we like to train, we're going to look for a lack of all three voltages, even though the regs say just lack of nominal or your system voltage. But we want the lineman to look for a lack of all three. And we want tools that are accurate enough to give us the information to give us a proof of a lack of all three. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So Ryan, I'm going to have you shut her down here in just a second when we open the switch, and you can just open that switch there. We're going to verify the switch is in first, Ryan. Okay, as Ryan said, you always want to verify that your tool's working properly just by the battery check. And again, the battery check is exactly what he said. It's only a battery check. It does not prove that your tool is working properly. It's just a battery check. We've done training around the country, and we've heard some work methods, guys teaching their linemen that the battery check is actually a tool check. And there is no transformer step inside anybody's tools that step that battery check to a high known live voltage source at all. It's just a 9-volt battery check. That's all it is. Anybody's tools, whether it's a push button or a switch or anything. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, so prior to checking dead, so we're going to, we're taught to verify that there's a lack of nominal voltage. We're going to look for a lack of all three, as we previously said, and then we're going to put on our grounds, our TPGs. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple things differently. We're actually going to do a live test. So we're going to test, and then we're going to open, and then we're going to test, and then we're going to test our tester. Then we're going to place our grounds. So you guys get that? We're doing 5 steps. We're testing while we're energized. We know the switch is in. We're out here in the field. We know we're energized. But the thing is we don't know if our head's in the game. We want to verify that our partner's head is in the game. And I want my partner to verify my head is in the game when we're working together out in the field. You know, a lot of guys, they'll go out, they'll put out their cones, they'll do their risks, their hazards. They'll get all that down. But the thing is we need to be mutually accountable. And we need to be mutual accountable. In other words, my partner deserves to know my head's in the game, and he deserves to know my head's in the game. There's too much going on out there these days, in you know, the news and media. It's just so much bullcrap, and it tends to get our minds cluttered up. We're not professional, and we need to, when we're out in the field, we need to stay focused on being safe. So we know the switch is in, and we're going to actually test for live. You zoom in on this, Parker. You guys all see that?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. So this is a 13.8. We're close to, you guys know how the tools work. They make contact with the conductor, they couple with the capacitance, and it looks at the current in relation to the ground plane. And when it looks at the current, the components which are conductive gives you a voltage indication. So we know we're energized. So what we're going to do is Ryan's going to climb the pole over here, and he's going to open the switch. Okay, Ryan? All right. So the tool's telling us we're de-energized. Okay. And this tool is accurate enough that we know not only do we have a lack of nominal voltage, but we also have a lack of induction, and we also have a lack of backfeed. So a lack of all 3 voltages prior to putting on our temporary grounds. So now what we're going to do is, so we tested, we opened, we tested, but now we're going to test the tester. So we have a 3 kV power supply that we can test our tester on. Then we have a new handheld power supply that we're going to test our tester on. See that, Parker? Good. All right, so what happens is we verified that our tester was working when we tested for de-energization, and the tool said we're de-energized, and we can rely on the tool that the tool is actually very accurate and correct. So now we can place our temporary personal grounds, and it's very safe. So it's a couple extra steps, but it's a lot more information, a lot safer, all right? And another reason why, you know, there was a situation in Michigan several years ago where a line worker and his partner were changing out a broke pole, and they were changing out a broke pole, and they knew the lines were energized, and his partner was pulling the log out of the trailer. The boom hit the lines, and at the same time that his partner was in the truck pulling out some gear out of the truck, and the truck became energized, and the gentleman lost his life instantly. So his wife was without her husband, the kids were without their father. And, you know, the guy in the boom truck, he wasn't paying attention to where his partner was. And the gentleman that was electrocuted, he wasn't paying attention to what his partner was doing. So at that moment, both their heads were not in the game at all, both of them. And he was a 20-year journeyman lineman. Okay. So we always like, yeah.
We do have a couple of questions, and I don't know if you want to answer them now or wait till the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. First question is there a tool to identify a dead cable in a 3-phase trench?
Yes, we have that, but it's not really part of this training, but we have that.
Okay.
We can identify energized and de-energized.
Okay. And then another question, can it bleed capacitance off underground cables?
Yes, we're actually going to talk about that.
Okay. All right, I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay. So we like to train to do the test first before we open. And again, we're taking that extra step, even though we know we're energized, is because we want to have mutual accountability with each other out on the field. Okay. So what I'm going to do, Ryan, is I'm going to go ahead and get the zero ohm extension on. Okay. So when you're out in the field, every once in a while, you're going to have a scenario to where you might be using a tool, wireless or corded, and the tool's meter head. The meter head, when it's on the stick, could be close to another potential hot phase. And you do not want to use a tool when the meter head is close to another potential hot phase. And you know why, and you know how these tools work, how they couple with capacitance. If the meter head, and we get this a lot, if the meter head is close to another potential hot phase, you're going to be phase to phase, out of phase, and you will have an arc flash. Also, there are, from time to time, you're going to be using the tool, wireless or corded, and you're going to be in a tight vault or a tight cabinet. And the meter head may be close to the cabinet, a potential ground plane. Maybe a lot of the guys, we've heard stories and seen the pictures where they're using their tools. And again, it doesn't matter whose tools they are, where the tools are being used and the meter head is actually laying on a potential ground, maybe a neutral, a cabinet. And you don't want to ever use anybody's tools with that scenario to take place. So you want to visually inspect. And what you're going to do is you're going to use a zero ohm extension right here. So before we touch that hot conductor in that substation, or before we go into that tight vault, we're going to visually inspect, and we're going to see that the meter head's too close to that potential hot phase or too close to that potential ground. So we put a zero ohm extension, and here's before and here's after. And then that prevents that arc flash from happening. we've done a lot of training for utilities, some small, some quite large, to where they had arc flashes, and this right here ends it. Done. This is very important that the line worker are trained that how these tools work, anybody's tools, how they work. And once they understand that, they get a concept of that, then they'll know that use that 0-ohm extension when it's necessary from time to time. Okay? Everybody get that?
Yes, yes.
All right. All right. Can you see that, Parker? All right. You guys remember what we were reading prior to on this 13.8? We were getting over 16,000 volts. Remember that? And now look. Now we're getting closer to the true voltage of that 13.8. We're getting about 14.9. You guys see that? So not only is a 0-ohm extension safer, it keeps that meter head away from that potential hot phase or another potential ground, and it's going to be a lot more accurate for you now. So it's going to accomplish two things. Okay? Now, we were doing training in Murfreesboro, Tennessee for JTS several years ago. And a couple linemen came out and they talked to me about this incident that took place. What happened is one of the guys was back. Let me use this real quick, right? They were in a cabinet, and one of the guys, he was working the elbows and it was energized. He was working the elbows with this hot stick. His partner noticed that the cabinet was a little loose from its foundation. And what happened is he put his gloved hand onto that cabinet to help steady his partner's work on those elbows a little bit. And when he put his hand on that cabinet to help his partner out, he was arc flashed immediately. And that arc flash went right across his gloves, straight home to ground. All right? And it's really important that the line workers out in the field understand that their best friend is that air dielectric. So his buddy was working the hot stick on those elbows, and he had the air dielectric right here. But his partner, when he took his gloved hand and put his gloved hand on that cabinet and was arc flashed, what he did is he trusted for a moment. He trusted in his gloves right here. The gloves are a good friend, but they're not your best friend. I was doing some training in Florida this last winter, which is a good place to train in the wintertime. And anyways, doing some training, and the linemen saw the sign every day. And the sign said that your temporary personal grounds and your gloves are your best friend. And I told those guys they needed to change that sign. Air dielectric is your best friend, and your TPGs are your best friend as well. But your gloves are a good friend. But what happened when that lineman trusted his good friend, just his good friend, he kicked his best friend, the air dielectric, out in the street, and he was arc flashed. So this happens a lot. So they told me this incident, and what they did is they wrote up in the incident report the reason why the guy that when he put his hand on the cabinet was arc flash was because of rat piss in the cable. There was some rat piss in the cables. That's why he got arc flash. That was her story. All right, he got burned up. He's alive. Everything's fine, but he had to spend some time in the hospital. But when the lineman told me it was because of rat piss, I basically told him it was a escape rat. Okay, it's not what happened. What happened is his partner kicked his best friend, air dielectric, out to the street. So let me show you guys something. Ryan, you're gonna do some voltage readings? So we're gonna use this stick. We recommend at least 24 inches back from the meter head when it's being used on that hot stick. Some utilities say 36 inches back. Some say 31. I prefer 36. You don't want to ever use the tools. Again, like Parker said, with a gloved hand, we'll call this tool glover, all right? And you don't want to use anybody's tools short sticking. Having your gloved hands near the meter itself, but getting rid of that air dielectric, your best friend. That's called short sticking. And we don't want to do short sticking either, okay? So Ryan here, he's going to do some readings with me using the tool properly, even with the 0-ohm extension. So if we were not using the 0-ohm extension, these readings would actually be more exaggerated, much larger. But I don't want to do this without the 0-ohm extension. So we're going to keep it on. Okay. Picking up about 13 volts. About 20 volts. About 18 volts. All right. You all see that good?
Yeah, they came through clear.
Nice. All right. So now I'm out in the field, and for a short moment, my nickname's going to be Short Sticker. All right, or Tool Glover. If you're a Lineworker, you want those nicknames. Okay. What we're going to do is you're going to see a difference here, and it's kind of medium humidity. We've done this where we had a little mist in the air, and the numbers were a lot higher. We've done this where it was even higher humidity than this, and the numbers were a lot higher. So these numbers are going to be kind of your average, it looks like today. About 60 volts, 62 volts. 608 volts. 125 volts. Right. You guys see the difference? Big difference. All right. Any questions thus far?
No questions are in here right now.
Okay, so we've gotten a lot of calls from utilities. I had one utility call a couple years ago, and the lead lineman was using an analog tool. And he called in, and on that analog tool, he was in the bucket truck, and he was touching an energized source, and he was getting 13,000 volts on that energized source. But it was a 7200 line. And Ryan, can you go ahead? Yeah, we'll do passive test points. Corner pole? Okay. All right. So as you can see, Ryan here put up a corner pole. So he called in and he said he was getting 13,000 volts. And on a 7200, he said that the analog device was repaired, calibrated, and they're still not working properly. So if you're on 7200 and you're using the tool as a phasing tool, if you're out of phase, you're going to get close to 13,000 volts, which is what he called and said he was getting, about 13,000 volts. So the lead lineman, instead of arguing with him, you know, it's easy to tell that these guys need training. Their whole utility needs training. So I simply got a plane ticket, flew out there, and did some training for those guys. We did about an hour, hour and a half indoor, and then we went outside and did an hour outside. But what happened was, when he was using the tool initially, Here's a corner pole. He's in the bucket truck, and you guys see my hand position, and he makes contact with 7,200 volts. But he was getting 13,000. What happened was his body was coupling with capacitance on another phase behind him, and he was short sticking. So that capacitance was flowing across his body through the tool the opposite direction. At the same time, the tool was reading that the other conductor in relation to the ground plane, this direction. So he is getting 13,000 volts. So improper body position. It's super important that the line worker places his body in the proper position. So your back is not on the corner pole. You're looking at that corner pole, and you're further back from your meter head. All right. So after the training, when he got in the bucket truck using the same broke tool that was reading 13,000, he was now getting about 7,400 on an analog tool, which is pretty darn accurate for an analog. And I haven't heard from that company since. All their tools are working great. Okay. You guys get that? Understand?
Yep, we're getting a bunch of yeses coming in through the chat.
Okay, good. Yeah, if there's any questions, just interrupt me. That's fine. Also, I got a call from another utility. Actually, I was doing training for them in Louisiana. And when I was doing training, they happened to have an AV meter that was broken, horn and light. That was broken. So what I did is I had him bring his broken tool over, and we used it for the training that day. And what he said is he was making contact with the conductor. He was in a bucket truck making contact with the conductor, and he was getting a false positive. And it's super important when you use the tools that you have proper body position. So we use the tool on a live known voltage source. This is when we had the trailer out in the field, which we still do. It's in California right now, waiting for some training in California. But we were using the trailer, which we'll just call it this PME. And we tested on a live known voltage source, tested the battery, tested for dead, tested for the tool itself. We tested on secondary voltage, tested on primary voltage. It'll work flawless. And the linemen were kind of like not getting it. They're a little confused. And they said, well, it's working for you, but it doesn't work for us. And so after the training, they went and did a video. Well, when they came back and brought the video to me after the training, here's the corner pole. This is in Louisiana now. Here's him in the bucket truck making contact with that open switch conductor. And he was getting a false positive. But you see my body next to this corner pole? And look at my hand position, short sticking. And I asked the guys, I said, look, you just went through the training. So look at your video that you did, and you tell me what you're doing wrong on your video. And they just, grunted a little bit. And I haven't heard from them since. That's been about 3 years as well. So their tools are working great. It's just proper body position. It's very important. Okay, so far. All right. Also, when using a phasing tool or a voltage indicator, when you're using these tools, it is important that you do not use non-contact tools at all. A non-contact tool, we've done training side by side with direct contact, and we've done training with somebody pulls a non-contact tool off the truck. Maybe it's brand new, and they'll go side by side with direct contact. And a non-contact tool will be at a hot bushing. Maybe it's a 19.9 hot bushing, and that non-contact tool is about 2 feet away. from a hot bushing, and we're getting about 69,000 volts on their non-contact tool. We make direct contact, and we're getting about 20,000 volts on that 19.9. So the numbers on a non-contact tool are not very accurate at all. Not only that, but if you're in a tight cabinet, maybe you're on a underbuild, you got some transmission lines, but you're on some distro, and you're on an underbuild, and you got a non-contact tool, and you're verifying a particular conductor de-energized, you're going to get something on that tool no matter what. And non-contact tools are just no good. They're very dangerous. The linemen, the line worker are presumptuous. Basically, they're guessing. And remember, we want to look for on a particular conductor, overhead or underground, we want to look for a lack of nominal, a lack of induction, and a lack of backfeed on a particular contact or conductor. And a non-contact tool does not do that, okay? It just does not do that accurately. So you need direct contact tools, phasing or looking at voltage, okay? Any questions?
No questions at this time.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do, Ryan, let's go ahead. Let's do some phasing of capacitive test points with the ported tool. But let me look at this voltage here first. Why you got that grounded. So we're going to talk about corded tools next. So we got a tool here that's corded. It's true RMS voltage, plus or minus 1%. It's a very safe tool. Remember when Parker was talking about keeping those probes clean, and you got that limit mark on your probe not to ever pass with an energized source? The reasoning behind that is because that's where the resistors are. That's what protects the tool, the resistors in the probe. And ultimately, as these resistors protect the tool, they protect the line worker behind the tool. So it's super important to always remember that. But this is a very safe tool. It's corded. This cord here, we actually custom build this cord right here in South Carolina. This cord is shielded at 35,000 volts. So it's basically a cord within a cord. No one else does this. We're the only company that does this. We don't have stockholders keep happy. So we got a little more resource and effort in our tools. So our tools are very safe, but you always want to treat the cord as if it's energized. All the line workers always need to remember that. Even though this cord is shielded at 35 kV, always want to treat the cord as if it's energized. And whatever distance is written in your work methods, as far as working from the tool, if it's 36 inches back from the meter head, it is super important that the work methods are also written that the cord is the line worker stays away from the cord 36 inches at the minimum as well. And it needs to be written. It has to be understood. If that cord became energized, maybe on 36 inches back from the tool here, but the cord's right next to my body. And if that cord becomes energized, I could get an arc flash. All right. So the work methods need to state that the same distance from the meter head is treated as the cord the same. So let's say 36 inches. Okay, Ryan, it's on ground. Okay. All right. Can you zoom in there, Parker? You can see that this 13.8 is a little higher than 13.8 because that's true RMS voltage. A little over 14,000. But the cord, you always want to make sure that the guys are taught to stay away from that cord, that 36 inches as well. Okay? It's very important. Okay? You want to de-energize first, Brian? So what we're going to do now is we're going to do some phasing off capacitive test points. It's very safe to phase off capacitive test points. Obviously, you're just looking at about 10% of the nominal voltage. And how we're going to do this is kind of cool because this tool is so accurate. What we're going to do is we're going to go phase to ground first off the capacitive test points of these elbows. Let me step over here, Ryan. You want to scoot over? There you go. There you go. Okay. So we've got about 212 volts phased to ground. So we're going to verify we're energized, of course. But we also want to look at what our voltage is phased to ground on each elbow because each elbow has a different fingerprint. The semicon material in the elbow causes the elbow to have difference of resistance. So we're going to look at, let's go to the next one, right? There you go. That's good. Just the one. Just the one. That's good. Okay. You want to go ahead and get back on your tool? Dang, kind of dangerous with that. Okay. So go ahead back to your ground. Okay, so about 212 volts phase to ground. Stay there. I think I'm on it. About 60 volts. Am I on it? About 60 volts phase to ground. So about what, 100, was that 140, 150? About 150 volt difference. So if we're in phase, then what we'll see is we'll see the difference. And then you just subtract the difference and that gets you close to your zero.
Where you gotta go? Here to ground, here to ground.
What now? Okay, there's ground.
Okay.
Okay.
Now go to this one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
So that's 250.
Sorry about that. About 50 volts difference. So if we're in phase, we'll see about 50 volts. Do the subtraction and that's your zero. Okay. So 47 volts. Take 47 volts, do the subtraction, and we're close to zero. So it's real safe phasing off capacitive test points with this tool. All right. All right, so let's go ahead, Ryan. Let's do the wireless. That's good. How many minutes do we got left, Parker? 346. 340, okay, so we're good. All right, any questions thus far? Good?
No questions at this time.
So Ryan's going to take it over to a 13.8 overhead line. What phase is that? What phase is that, Ryan?
Blue. Blue? Going to blue.
That's our B. Okay, that's a C phase. Find out shortly. Okay. All right, so what we're doing is we're going to be phasing here, and the tool, once we put it on DEG degrees, the tool doesn't care about potential. You want to check your switch plate? You see your, no, just phasing. DE, you got it on DEG? Okay, so we put it on DEG for degrees, so the tool's not going to look at voltage. You can use this tool as a voltage indicator as well, just like the tool we showed you previously, but we're going to use this just as looking at the phasing. And when you're looking at the phasing with this tool, we have a referenced blue phase or C phase. And when you touch a conductor with this tool, it doesn't care if it's on the high side, the low side, secondary, primary power, capacitive test point, hot bushing. It doesn't care. It's just looking at the phase angle that's generated from the generation plant. That's all it cares about. Okay. You want a blue phase there? Okay. So we're referencing a blue phase. So you can see that we're on the white phase and we're about 120 out. About 120 degrees out, we got a blue light. So that's telling us that the sequence is blue, white, and red. That's our sequence here. Okay? That's on about 14,000 volts. You got those switch right? Huh?
Yeah. That's right.
What's that?
That's right.
Close to zero?
Yeah.
Here, let me get a straight probe. Huh? You want to go ahead? Go ahead. There you go. So we're getting a white light. And remember, a circle is 360 degrees. And we're getting close to our 360 degrees. We're getting a white light. So it's telling us it's a match. So the blue phase. So the C, and that's a C phase right here. That's a C phase. That's the test point. So it's real easy, very safe. You get two confirmations. You get the LED display that's the screen, and you get the lights, the colors that are going to be a match or it's out of phase. It'll let you know how far back it's lagging. Want to go to the last one, Parker? There you go. So we see our red phase there. So the sequence is blue as our reference, white, and our last in phase is going to be our red, which is 240 degrees, close to 240 degrees out. And then you see a red light. So it's just super safe, real-time information. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so you all have any questions?
No questions at this time.
All right, so it's very important. It's very important to make sure that the line worker understands how a voltage indicator, phasing tool, how they work. They make contact with that conductor. They couple with the capacitance in relation to the ground plane. The components inside of everybody's tools are conductive. So when they're using the tools, They're not going to be short sticking and they're not going to be tool gloving their tools. They're going to stay away from that, how the tools work. So how these tools are calibrated. When these tools are calibrated in our calibration room, they're calibrated on a stick and they go into the equipment and they're adjusted so they look at that proper relationship with the conductor, the current in relation to the ground plane. And then they're calibrated exact and perfect. When these tools are being calibrated for use out in the field prior to sale, they are never calibrated using a gloved hand. Never. Because that's not how the tools are designed to work. So how the tools are designed to work is your X. That's your X. And then your work method, that's going to be your Y. So your X, how the tool works, plus Y, your work method, is going to be your safety, equals safety. X plus Y equals safety. Okay? And when improper work methods are being used, you don't get safety as your equal sign. All right? You just don't get safety at all. That's not how the tools are designed. So they need to understand in their work methods to stay away from their tools at all times when they're being used on a live known source or a de-energized source. Always stay away from the tool. All right?
We do have a question that's come in. Attendee is wondering if you offer training videos that can be shared with crews at safety meetings.
Yeah, good question. And I forgot to bring this up, but if you guys go to Bierer safety training, actually Bierer meter safety training, we do go to YouTube Bierer meter safety training. There are several pretty good videos, good clips that you guys can grab and share and use anytime from YouTube. And, you know, subscribe or whatever, because we try to put up a couple every month. We just started about, I don't know, 4 months ago, but we have a good couple handfuls now of these videos. And you guys are welcome to use those. Again, we have the Facebook Lineman Safety and Tool Training group, and on LinkedIn, that group. And again, it's a platform so we can share safety with one another freely. And that's another reason for these videos. We actually put on webinars from here all the time regarding if it's a particular device, regarding the safety and tool training, whatever the utility is looking for. They don't have to be a customer. It's first come, first serve, and we just do it freely. We also, if you get a hold of me, you can get my contact information, and we do this training around the United States using our 40-foot demo and show trailer. And pretty much we book out about a year in advance. So right now we are solidly booked up into February of 2022. So we are booked up. And it's a training, we backfeed transformers, and it's live just like we did here today, no difference at all. And it's 3-phase, and we don't need any shore power, and we just bring it all. And we just set up, and it's all safe. If the utility is locked down and they don't want visitors, we get exceptions a lot of times just because it's outdoors, and we can do this and everybody just stays away from us. You know, because apparently this thing has a 6-foot tape measure, so that's what we do. But we've been traveling on since last June. We haven't been slowed down at all. And we get into utilities and we travel and do this, and then we do it from webinars all the time. And it's all free. It's very unique in the industry. We basically have what we call a Bierer USA. And USA is utility support and assistance. And we just help the utilities. My brother Joe, he travels all over the place. And we just help utilities if they have a particular situation that they need help with. We do it all the time. We help them out. We actually help utilities rewrite their safety procedures, work methods, and it's all free.
Excellent. Yeah, I just want to let people know in attendance that we are posting some of those links that that Brent has referenced. So if you want a direct link to those things he mentioned, they'll be in the chat. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap this session, Brent?
No, I think we're good. There is one more while we're talking about it. I forget things sometimes, but there was a utility about 2 springs ago, so about 2 years ago, that they did experience an art clash using a corded tool. And basically, what happened is the line workers were in the substation using a corded device, and their work methods state that they had to be 36 inches back from the meter head. So that's good. And they were 36 inches back, and they were using the device, and they were making contact with a conductor that was hot, and the meter head actually came in very, very close proximity to another hot phase, another hot bushing, hot bus. And you know how these tools work. So they had it phased to ground. Here's the cord. They had it phased to ground. So my question to you all in that situation, what do you think took place? You know how these tools work. So what do you all think that actually took place in that scenario?
And you can type your answer in the chat, or if you want us to unmute your microphone to say it, just let us know in the chat and we'll unmute you. And we'll wait a couple of seconds to see what the responses are. Okay, we've got phase to ground fault has come in.
Yep.
Phase to ground phase, other phase jumped over to the path to the ground.
Mhm.
Ground playing close to the other bushing.
That's cool. I could see those questions. That's cool.
Phase to
That
phase.
is so cool. Yeah, I like some of these answers.
Oh, okay, you got it. You got it.
I haven't been reading this. I didn't know that good. This is awesome, man. All right, that's good. So let's talk about it now. You guys need to calm down a little bit. Calm down with all this, okay? Okay, here we go. All right, so what happened was, this was in Texas. Anyways, and they're a pretty good utility, but, and all these utilities, guys, these guys, they got heart. And they are all really good utilities, but the line workers are just not learning a basic concept of how the tools even function. Think about it. They're using these tools every day, and they don't even know how these tools function. They literally, I hear the stories everywhere we go. The linemen, they'll come out and they'll tell me, you know, they're given the tool, and the bosses say, hey, go out and, you know, start using this new tool. Or go out, maybe they got a new apprentice, and their superintendent says, here's the tool, and this tool is maybe 20 years old, but there's no instruction on how the tools even function at all in these utilities. It is, I'm serious, guys. It is flat ridiculous how bad it is and how little understanding these tools are getting to the mind of the people that are using them, trusting their lives with these tools. It's unbelievable. We get it all the time. So that's exactly what happens. So as phase, remember, they make contact with the conductor, and you guys know that other hot bushing, that other hot bus was right here. Well, the resistors are here. So when the hot phase is here, there is no resistors at all. And sure enough, the components are conductive. So that other phase, actually phase to phase and straight to ground. That's right, fault. And that's what happened. The meter exploded right here. And that potential shot down the cord to the secondary probe.
is all standard up.
All right. Shot down that cord to the secondary probe that was on ground. And the cord was completely exploded from beginning to end, and also exploded at the connection here, the interconnect cable connection here. Now, the good news is, so that was one mistake. That was one mistake. The thing that the linemen were using proper work methods is that they were 36 inches back from the meter head, and they were 36 inches back from the cord, wearing all their PPE on, okay? And so what happened was when that arc flash took place, they literally just instantly dropped their tools. And just think if they were close to the tool, if they were close to the cord or maybe short sticking, one of them probably be dead, all right? And when that happened, they just dropped everything and they went running, screaming like girls. And I can say that because they actually told me that. So what they did is they sent pictures to us, you know, hey, your tools suck. Your tools are no good. They're dangerous. And sure enough, you can see exactly where that meter head was on that hot bus, right on that hot bus. And it looked like one of those World War II movies. The planes were dropping a bomb on the ground, a big old crater. That paint was just all cratered up on that side of that substation. And so we went there, did the training for them. And they brought all their linemen in. We did safety for all their guys. And now all their linemen know how these tools work, everybody's. And they're all happy. But that's basically what we do, is we just bring that to you guys. More questions? More questions?
Yeah. No. I'm sorry. I thought it was a question for you. As an internal question about the conference. My apologies. Not seeing questions, but we'll ask people if you have any questions, please do submit them now, and we'll get them answered for you.
Yeah, and if they have questions down the road, anybody, you guys, they can contact us. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we've provided the contact info in the chat, and if you think of questions later, yeah, just reach out to chat, and we'll send you contact information to Brent. We do have a question that come in. What's your thoughts on using rubber gloves while hot sticking versus not to feel breakdown of stick?
Yeah, it just depends on the situation. If you're going underground, I mean, rubber gloves, if you're way up in the air, you got a good hot stick. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to wear rubber gloves. You're away from ground planes with a hot stick. But if you're in a substation underground, and if you're working distribution lines, you obviously are a lot closer to ground planes. That's where I prefer rubber gloves, definitely. And that's actually a super important thing. That brings up a thing. I had a line worker a couple of years ago when we were going through this training. He came up with me, and this is important to know, okay? He came up to me after the training, and I get a lot of this. There's a lot of incidences, and you guys probably know this. There's a lot of incidences that are taking place that actually don't even get reported. But he came to me and told me this in confidence, and he actually said that he went to a capacitive test point using a meter without gloved hands, and went to that capacitive test point without gloves on. So you guys know how the tools work. So what do you think happened going to that capacitive test point? What do you guys think happened without gloves?
Zap. What we got? Oh, you can see him. Yeah, you see him coming in.
Yeah, I see him. This is cool too. I like this. Yeah. So, yeah, they can just contact us for webinar training and direct on-site training. We travel all the time. And we breathe oxygen. We stay healthy. We breathe oxygen.
Okay, so let's see. What about wearing gloves with a live line tool that are class below the voltages present? Example, class 4 gloves on a 69 or 138 circuit.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure you're using the proper class gloves. If your utility, has certain work methods in place, then you want to use proper gloves, because you just don't know. I mean, the guys out in the field, things happen. They just do all the time. That scenario, that fluke incident, you hear this so much. That fluke incident that just happened. You never hear of this, but it happened, and then someone gets hurt. So whatever the work methods are, no shortcuts at all. That's what Parker said. On their tools, the line worker can use the tool directly without the proper accessory, straight probe, hook probe, or bushing adapters. But man, there are too many shortcuts taking place out there, guys. Too many shortcuts, and as far as production out in the field, getting things done, there needs to be more emphasis on safety and a lot more inferences on watching out for each other. Really needs to watch out for each other.
So what was the answer? What did happen for that example?
Yeah, he got hit with about 300 volts. You guys saw the voltage phase to ground was about a little over 200 on that capacitive test point, and he got hit with about 250, 300 volts direct. Scared the crap out of him. He told me it scared the crap out of him. And this is like a 20-year journeyman lineman taking a shortcut. It doesn't matter if they're apprentice, the journeyman lineman. I mean, it's amazing what's going on out there. And we just really got to watch each other. I always, there's a lot of mental things going on with people these days, unfortunately. And I always like to bring up with these guys and the gals how important they are, and how much purpose they have with one another, and how much influence they'll have throughout their career with so many people, and how they are training others by their example. They don't have to say a word, but there's so much training that needs to happen by true and real example, safety and work methods proper, because that person can leave that utility and go somewhere else and spread a bad work method and a bad habit, a shortcut, to hundreds of linemen, hundreds of line workers. Okay, so it's just so important that watching out for each other and following the proper work methods that are established, and they need to be known all the time because they are important.